Feline champion. Thought she was the only Deathworlder until she saw the human Contender. The sprawling orbital hub known as Nexus Spire circled a remote blue-white sun, its docking arms aglow with the ceaseless comings and goings of ships from every corner of the cosmos. The main concourse throbbed with life, corridors lined in liquid crystal lighting, the air perfumed with 100 unplaceable scents. Alien delegates, each more dazzling or fearsome than the last, mingled beneath the banners of their worlds. Colors clashed, languages overlapped, translators worked overtime. But at the center of the swirling current stood Lyra Veyron, the lone representative of the Feline. She cut a striking figure, midnight black hair falling in a glossy curtain over high, angular cheekbones, her full lips set in a line that brooked no nonsense. Velvet-furred, triangular ears crowned her head, the tips flicking and twitching, capturing sounds beneath the din. A slender tail, adorned with 3 silver rings, moved in restless arcs behind her. Her almond-shaped, golden eyes shimmered with keen intelligence as she surveyed the crowd, each movement measured, wary, but never uncertain. She stood tall, the pride of Nixara, and her presence made a ripple even among the boldest delegates. A sudden burst of energy swept into her orbit as Cassia Lorne, event host and star of 1,000 broadcasts, materialized in a flash of glittering hollow particles. Cassia's ever-present smile gleamed for the cameras, platinum blonde hair, perfect posture, charisma dialed to 11. "The pride of Nixara joins us," Cassia announced, voice carrying over the hum. "Lyra Veyron, what's it like to be the only Deathworlder this cycle?" Lyra's golden eyes narrowed, and she regarded Cassia with a subtle, predatory amusement. Her reply came as a low, melodic rumble that silenced those nearby. "It means the odds are finally interesting." Cassia's laugh fluttered out, edged with nerves, but the host's composure never cracked. "You always know how to keep us guessing, Lyra." Still, Lyra's attention had already slipped past her, scanning the crowd once more for threats, or equals. Most participants seemed fragile in her eyes, depending on their elaborate tech or the strange quirks of evolution that had shaped them. None looked as if they had ever fought for their lives with tooth and claw. But then, a single figure drew her gaze, a human male, standing apart, face impassive beneath the soft glow of the bracket displays. He wore understated gear, a slate-gray jacket, boots worn by honest use, and a single utility band at his wrist. He was the first human to qualify in years, and he stood with a quiet focus that ignored the chaos around him. Lyra studied the lines of his jaw, the steady way he regarded the challenge board. Then, he looked up, catching her scrutiny, and steel-blue eyes met gold. He nodded, an unspoken challenge, neither deferential nor hostile. "Humans, predators, who kept their minds sharp." "Unusual," said a voice at Lyra's side. Her mentor, Master Jalen, had materialized as if conjured from shadow. Gray-furred and dignified, he stood with arms folded, eyes never leaving the human. Lyra did not break the stare. "I see him," she murmured. "Eli Mercer," Jalen supplied quietly. "Earthborn, survived 3 extinction-level events on his homeworld." Lyra's tail flicked once, approving. "He doesn't look impressed." "He knows better than to show it." Jalen's tone was approving. Then, Director Voss shimmered into view atop a central dais. The director's semi-transparent form, both imposing and androgynous, commanded immediate attention. Voice amplified, resonant as a bell, Voss spoke. "Champions, welcome to the 47th Interstellar Trials. Tomorrow brings your first ordeal, the Shrouded Gauntlet. Teams are permitted, but only the first dozen to reach the beacon proceed." Voss's gaze swept the crowd, lingering fractionally on Lyra, then on Eli. "Prepare yourselves." The crowd dissolved, tension humming in the air. Lyra's gaze lingered on Eli as he disappeared into the throng, her pulse thrumming with curiosity. A rare emotion, sharper than contempt, more dangerous than rivalry. When morning came, the field for the first ordeal was unveiled, a vast labyrinthine course shrouded in swirling indigo mist. The vapor twisted like living shadows, hungry and toxic to most life forms. Platforms hovered in the gloom, connected by trembling bridges and precarious spans. The beacon, a pulsing white star, waited somewhere ahead, a promise and a threat. Lyra stood poised at the starting line, the mist curling around her boots. She flexed her claws, heart steady. Felinar biology thrived where others faltered. Her lungs processed poisons, her skin shed toxins. Others coughed, hesitated. She did not. Cassia's voice buzzed in her earpiece, crisp and taut with excitement. 38 contenders still active, Lyra, looking strong, as always. She leapt, landing lightly on a floating platform, then another. The mist grew thicker, but her golden eyes pierced it. Behind her, figures floundered, some coughing, some already falling. Lyra's pace was relentless, calculated leaps, claws catching purchase on slick surfaces. She was the huntress, every sense attuned. Then, a sudden shape resolved in the gloom, a crystalline being, refracting the pallid light. Shylock's, infamous for wielding forbidden tech, blocked her path, energy crackling from the weapon in his hand. "Stand aside," Lyra warned, but Shylock's only bared fangs of refracted light and hurled a blade of pure force. She dodged, the weapon sizzling past her ear. The narrow span trembled beneath their feet. Lyra struck, claws flashing, nearly toppling Shylock's. But he was cunning. A flash grenade bloomed, brilliant as a nova, searing her vision white. Disoriented, Lyra staggered, every muscle poised for attack. Shadows moved. More figures, Shylock's allies, closing in with alien weapons drawn. She dropped to a crouch, fangs bared, but before she could spring, another presence sliced through the chaos. Eli Mercer appeared from the haze, movements honed and economical. He swept low, knocking one attacker off balance, then parried another's strike with fluid efficiency. 1, 2, 3, each motion precise, unshowy, effective. In moments, Shylock's allies lay sprawled on the trembling bridge. Lyra's vision cleared enough to see Eli standing, unaffected by the mist, his chest barely rising with exertion. "Earth's got its own poisons," Eli said, tone casual, eyes locked on hers. "You adapt or you don't make it." Lyra straightened, bracing herself against the low hum of adrenaline. "Why help me?" she demanded. He shrugged, a sly smile curving his lips. "Wasn't help, just an introduction." Before she could retort, Eli was already moving, dashing for the beacon. Lyra hesitated for a heartbeat, the challenge singing in her blood, then followed. Two predators, wary and newly intrigued, forging ahead into the unknown. Together they crossed the threshold, securing their place in the trials, the Deathworld pair, marked now not just by their resilience, but by a flicker of something more. Cassia's broadcast thundered across every screen on Nexus Spire, her voice smooth as polished glass. The Deathworld pair, Lyra Varen and Eli Mercer, advanced to round 2. What surprises will they bring next? The words echoed through the corridors, stirring a ripple of gossip and speculation. In her quarters, Lyra leaned over her tablet, eyes darting as she sifted through data on her next opponents. Names and threat ratings flickered across the display. Vespian duelist, Hydran tactician, Clithian pack. She memorized patterns, strengths, flaws, her tail flicking with focus. Behind her, Master Jalen's reflection appeared in the glass. His concern was a tangible weight in the room. "You're interested in the human," he said, voice deceptively mild. Lyra didn't look up. "He's the first in years to qualify. He's relevant." Jalen's ears flattened, eyes narrowing. "Professional curiosity, then?" He leaned closer, lowering his voice. His records are suspiciously clean. No details. Either he's a prodigy, or someone's hiding something. Lyra's lips curled in a wry smile. I'll learn what I need in the labyrinth. Data only says so much. Data is what keeps us alive, Jalen countered. But information is currency here. The sponsor's gala tonight. It's your best chance for intel. Lyra suppressed a sigh. Galas are for politics and predators. Jalen's whiskers twitched. Exactly. Play the game. The gala was a living dream. An indoor forest of alien flora shimmered under bioluminescent canopies, vines cascading from the ceiling, petals glowing along every winding path. Dignitaries in every imaginable form moved through the lush undergrowth, some gliding, some slithering, some striding on legs of crystal or chitin. Music, half song, half ambient soundscape, drifted between conversation clusters, punctuated by laughter and the clink of glassware. Lyra wore Felinar formal attire, a sleeveless tunic of midnight silk, silver-threaded, her tail rings gleaming, ears adorned with delicate chains. She felt exposed without her usual weapons, relying on the armor of poise. Director Voss intercepted her beside a sprawling blue-flowered tree, expression inscrutable, body shimmering with faint translucence. Ms. Varen? A word? Lyra inclined her head. Director. Voss smiled, thin and calculated. The Deathworld pair. It's the story everyone wants. Two survivors, two predators. Will you stand together or tear each other apart? The audience is hungry. We're not a team, Lyra said, voice cool. The trials aren't a stage. Everything here is a stage. Voss's eyes sharpened. You and Mr. Mercer command attention. Use it, or it will use you. Across the room, Lyra caught Eli's gaze. He stood encircled by sponsors, some human, more not, fielding questions, but his attention was on her. The nod they exchanged was brief, electric, a silent truce, or perhaps an invitation. Voss followed her gaze. He's proving popular. Careful, Ms. Varen. Sometimes an ally is the deadliest rival. Lyra's tail twitched. I prefer open adversaries. Voss chuckled, then strode off, trailing whispers in their wake. The room buzzed, the air heavy with negotiations and coded threats. Lyra slipped through, catching fragments of conversation, bets on her odds, speculation about Eli's enhancements, warnings about sabotage. She listened, catalogued, and filed away every useful detail. A hush fell as Voss returned to the dais, amplified for all to hear. Champions, the next trial will be a labyrinth. Teams will be assigned at random. Only those who reach the core advance. Applause rippled, but tension pulsed beneath the surface. Later, away from the noise and expectation, Lyra found herself alone on a viewing deck. The artificial night was silent but for the hum of the station. She pressed her hands to the glass, gazing out at a scatter of distant stars, their cold beauty a balm. Footsteps approached. Eli appeared at her side, cradling a glass of something amber and sharp. Couldn't sleep? He asked, his tone casual but his eyes thoughtful. Too much noise, she replied. He nodded. You'd think, with all the technology, someone would invent a quiet gala. She smirked, then let the silence stretch. The stars hung between them, vast and indifferent. Where's home for you? Eli asked quietly. Nixara, black forests, silver rivers, always hunting, always hunted. Lyra's voice softened. And you? Eli's gaze dropped to his drink. Earth, used to be blue. Now it's mostly storms and wild places. I left when I was 17. He offered a crooked smile. Never really belonged. Don't think I ever will. Lyra considered him, catching the subtle scent that clung to him, clean, earthy, with a trace of spice. Oddly comforting. Outsiders have sharper claws. Eli laughed, warm and low. Is that a Feline proverb? Just truth, she said, her own smile ghosting. They stood in companionable silence, watching ships flicker past, two predators alone together in the dark. Random teams tomorrow? She finally asked, breaking the spell. Eli's grin was sly, almost conspiratorial. Nothing here is ever random. The next morning, the labyrinth's prep chamber was thick with anticipation. Lyra flexed her claws, tail twitching as the remaining contenders gathered, faces tense. Monitors flashed team assignments in dozens of scripts. Eli appeared beside her, adjusting the fit of his jacket. His blue eyes sparkled with anticipation, a mirror to her own tension. Their names flickered side by side. Lyra arched a brow. Random, was it? He offered his forearm, Feline style. Honor to hunt beside you. She clasped his arm, feeling the solid strength there. And you. A klaxon sounded. The gates slid open and they plunged into the maze. The labyrinth was a shifting warren of shadowed corridors and glimmering traps. Bioluminescent moss traced the walls, pulsing with hidden sensors. Lyra's heightened senses mapped the twists before her, ears swiveling for threats. Eli moved at her side, gaze sharp, every decision calculated. A Vespian, a spindly, wasp-like duelist, lunged from an alcove, poison blade flashing. Simultaneously, a hydran, all tentacles and muscle, surged from the shadows. Lyra rolled low, hamstringing the hydran, while Eli disarmed the Vespian in 3 precise moves. Together they flowed, strike, counter, evade, anticipating each other without words. The foes fell, defeated in moments. Breathing hard, Lyra met Eli's eyes, adrenaline singing. We make a good team. He grinned, sweat beading at his brow. Could get used to this. They pressed on, navigating branching tunnels and deadly puzzles. At a crossroads, warning lights flared. A split second before an explosion thundered from overhead. Debris rained down. Eli yanked Lyra into an alcove, his body shielding hers from the blast. For a heartbeat, all she registered was his heat, the rapid beat of his heart, the scent of adrenaline, and something impossibly human. The closeness unsettled her. She pushed away, breathing shallow. Careful. I can take care of myself. He shrugged, unoffended. Force of habit. Deeper into the maze, traps grew more cunning. Thermal sensors targeted her heat signature, forcing Lyra to slow and mask her presence. Pressure plates, attuned to human footfalls, threatened Eli at every step. More than once, she caught the flicker of surveillance drones above. Someone's targeting us, she growled, frustration simmering. Eli's jaw tightened. Wouldn't be the trials without a little sabotage. They moved together, trust hard-won in the crucible of competition. At last, the final gate loomed, flanked by ornate terminals. Only their tokens would open it. In Lyra's earpiece, Master Jalen's voice crackled with urgency. The human sabotaged his own kind. Do not warn him, Lyra. The evidence is clear. Her claws dug into her palm. Are you certain? She whispered. Jalen's reply was cold. He cannot be trusted. Finish this. Across from her, Eli stiffened, his own calm hissing. He glanced at Lyra, eyes hardening. Lyra Varen sabotaged the hydran. She's playing you, Eli, a voice whispered. Unfamiliar, but official. For a moment, suspicion hung between them, sharp as a blade. Both realized the game being played. They stepped forward, side by side, tokens in hand. Lyra's claws hovered over the slot. Eli hesitated, jaw set. As the tokens clicked home, alarms blared. Security drones swooped in, ensnaring Eli in hard light shackles. Mercer, step away! You're under investigation for illegal enhancements. He struggled as they dragged him back, voice raw. This is a setup. Lyra, check your token. Confusion warred with Lyra's training. She hesitated, then flipped her token open. Inside, a Felinar device pulsed, evidence planted with expert skill. She stared at it, heart pounding. All around, the maze shifted, her path to victory clear. But doubt gnawed at her as she advanced, about the trials, about her orders, and most of all, about the man being pulled away, whose trust had just been weaponized. The roar of the main arena thundered through Nexus Spire as Lyra stepped onto the luminous platform, the crowd's energy vibrating beneath her feet. Hollow screens above flashed Contender's faces, her own, sharp-eyed and unreadable, and beside it, Eli's image now stamped in glaring crimson, disqualified. Cassia's voice, bright as ever, echoed through the space. Advancing solo, we have the Felinar's finest. Lyra Veyron, the sole Deathworlder left standing. What a turn for the interstellar trials. The cameras tracked her every movement, but Lyra's gaze stayed fixed, her tail tense with restrained fury. Director Voss appeared at the edge of the platform, his form shimmering with authority. Congratulations, Ms. Veyron. You have proven your superiority. Lyra didn't wait for him to finish. She withdrew the token, flipping it open to reveal the Felinar device nestled inside. Her voice carried, cold and clear. This was tampered with. Evidence planted. Deliberately. A ripple moved through the officials. Voss's expression flickered, but he recovered, offering a diplomatic nod. We will investigate, of course. For now, please enjoy the comfort of your quarters. Two security drones glided to her side. Lyra allowed herself to be escorted, not out of compliance, but out of calculation. She scanned the arena one last time, searching the sea of faces for Eli, but his image had vanished. Her holding suite was opulent, glass walls with panoramic starlit views, velvet furnishings, a cascade of blue-green light from a living sculpture. But the luxury grated on her nerves. She paced, tail lashing, mind racing through every detail. Who had planted the device? Who benefited from Eli's removal? And why the trials were suddenly more performance than contest? The door hissed. Master Jalen entered, his usual composure clouded with gravity. He crossed the room, pausing beside a gleaming table. You should have moved on, Lyra. The human was never meant to reach the finals. His presence upsets the balance. Lyra folded her arms, voice edged with anger. Balance for whom? Show me proof. What enhancements? What crime did he commit except surviving? Jalen's fur bristled. It is not about crime. Nixara's dominance must be preserved. The trials are more than games, they are politics. If you form an alliance with the human, you risk everything we have built. Felinar must remain ascendant. She advanced, golden eyes ablaze. You're afraid of what we might become if we stop hunting alone. He sighed, looking older. Some sacrifices must be made for the greater good, Lyra. Before she could retort, the door slid open once more. Director Voss entered, flanked by two aides. His mask of composure was thinner now, the strain bleeding through. Ms. Veyron, development. Our investigation found no evidence of enhancements, only a technical malfunction, an unfortunate error. Mr. Mercer will be reinstated. However, to address the scandal, the Council has requested a spectacle, a one-on-one match. You and Mr. Mercer, no teams. The audience demands resolution. Lyra's jaw clenched. So this is justice? A duel for their entertainment? Voss gave a slight, tired bow. It is the only way forward, for both of you. The arena transformed for the bout, shields rising, platforms shifting beneath swirling lights. The crowd's anticipation rippled like electricity. Lyra entered first, claws flexed, ears high. Across the ring, Eli appeared, face set, blue eyes burning with defiance and something else. Understanding. Cassia's voice boomed. For the first time, a Deathworlder versus Deathworlder. Who will claim the right to advance? They met in the center, tension crackling. Eli inclined his head, a silent apology for all that had led them here. Lyra gave a curt nod. Ready? He smirked. Ladies first. The bell sounded. They circled, predator and predator, trading feints and blows, each movement a dazzling display of skill. Claws met fists, parries flowed into counterattacks. Their rivalry was a performance, every exchange loaded with coded messages. Left corridor, 2 guards, no weapons, Eli muttered, voice low as he blocked her strike. Lyra ducked, landing a glancing blow. Security blind spot by the north wall. We can use it. He grinned, breathless. We always did work best together. Their fight escalated, a flurry of motion, sweat and fury and trust. Neither gained ground. At last, they broke apart, chests heaving, the arena silent with suspense. Cassia's voice faltered. It's a draw! Unprecedented! The crowd erupted, some cheers, some boos, but all spellbound. Voss's face, high above, was a mask of frustration. After the match, Lyra stalked back to her quarters, senses raw. She couldn't shake the feeling of being watched, manipulated. She stripped off her gloves, paced the floor. Her ears flicked, too late. The faintest hiss filled the air. She turned, but her limbs were already heavy, muscles locking with every breath. A paralyzing agent, engineered for Felinar biology, fogged the room, invisible and merciless. Lyra staggered, collapsing to her knees. The door slid open with a soft sigh. Jalen entered, face shadowed by regret. He knelt beside her, uncapping a vial. Forgive me, Lyra. This is necessary. Nixara's position is too precarious. You're a threat. To the Order, to the Alliance. Lyra fought to speak, each word dragged from her throat. You're sacrificing me. For politics. Jalen's hands were steady, but his eyes shone with anguish. One day, you'll understand. He readied the sedative, reaching for her arm. Before the needle touched her skin, the door crashed open. Eli burst in, eyes wild, shoulders squared for battle. In a blur, he crossed the room, wrenching Jalen away. They struggled, Jalen quick, but Eli quicker, subduing the Felinor master with an efficient chokehold. Jalen slumped to the floor. Eli spun to Lyra, retrieving a small injector from his belt. Antidote. Universal spectrum. Hold on. He pressed the cool metal to her neck. For a heartbeat, nothing. Then, sensation returned in a rush. Tingling pain, lungs burning, muscles spasming. She gasped, trembling as Eli steadied her, his hands gentle, careful not to startle. Breathe, Lyra. It's over, he murmured, supporting her as she found her feet. She looked up, reading the worry in his face, the relief when her gaze focused on him. He was still close, closer than he'd ever been. The room smelled of fear, adrenaline, and his scent. Earth, rain, hope. You risked everything for me, she whispered, voice ragged. Eli's hand lingered on hers, thumb brushing over her knuckles. Some things matter more than victory. The silence between them was heavy, fragile, more intimate than any battle, charged with everything unspoken. For a moment, the world shrank to the space between their hands, the promise in their eyes, and the truth that, against every odd, they had chosen each other. Lyra insisted she was fit to compete, slicing through every medical examination with sharp answers and sharper resolve. The lingering effects of the paralyzing agent still tugged at her muscles, but she masked the stiffness, jaw set in a defiant line. Monitors flashed green. The medics, some Felinar, some not, nodded, clearing her for the semi-finals. Eli stayed close, his watchfulness a shield she found oddly comforting. He hovered near the exam room doors, arms crossed, blue eyes narrowed at anyone who lingered too long. When the final medic signed off on her chart, he was there, his hand brushing her shoulder. Silent reassurance, fierce and gentle. Jalen, subdued and silent, was led away by security. Lyra watched the procession, her tail flicking with suspicion. Voss, ever the statesman, stood in the background, his expression unreadable. Lyra leaned toward Eli, voice low. Voss will cover for him. Nixara protects its own. Eli's lips quirked. Not all of them, apparently. His gaze lingered on her, warm with concern. The arena's central display flickered, announcing the semi-final matchups. Lyra versus Sirai, the Orinian telepath, and Eli against Shylox, now, suspiciously, back in the competition. The crowd murmured, speculation swirling through the air. Before they parted for their matches, Lyra caught Eli's wrist, her grip strong. "Watch Shylox," she warned, voice barely more than a whisper. Something's changed. He turned his hand in hers, fingers sliding over her palm, a touch brief but electric, sending a jolt up her arm. "You too, Lyra," he murmured, voice rich with meaning. "See you on the other side." The contact lingered in her senses, her heart beating just a little too fast. The arena glowed with shifting light, platforms rearranging in elegant patterns. Lyra faced Ciri across the field, the Orinian's iridescent skin shimmering, wide violet eyes unreadable. The match began. Ciri's telepathic voice brushed Lyra's mind, cool as morning mist. "The trials are compromised. Voss orchestrates everything. He's the one who freed Shylox. I can help you." Lyra's muscles tensed. "Why trust you?" "Because I want change too," Ciri replied, her lips barely moving. "Today, we both win." They circled, exchanging feints, but their strikes were gentle, a dance for the audience. Ciri let Lyra drive her back, falling into defeat with theatrical skill. As Lyra pressed the final attack, Ciri leaned close, her voice barely a whisper. "The human's in danger. Shylox has been enhanced. They don't expect you both to survive the finals." With a sudden dramatic tumble, Ciri conceded, bowing as the crowd erupted. Cassia's voice boomed, "Lyra Varen advances! What a display!" But Lyra barely heard, already sprinting from the field. She tore through the corridors, claws unsheathed, tail lashing in agitation. The observation deck loomed ahead, its wide windows affording a view into the next arena. On the far platform, Eli faced Shylox, the crystalline being now larger, energy shimmering beneath his translucent skin. Something was wrong. Eli's movements were sluggish, off balance. Shylox attacked with brutal efficiency, driving him to the edge. Lyra's heart hammered. She didn't hesitate. With a running leap, she smashed through the observation window, glass shattering in a rain of diamond shards. She landed between Shylox and Eli, her body angled protectively, every instinct roaring. Before the entire arena, she lifted her voice, projecting with Feline force. "Director Voss is corrupt. Shylox is enhanced. This is no fair match." She produced the evidence Ciri had slipped her, a data crystal containing surveillance of Voss's manipulation. A hush fell. Cassia's eyes widened. Security rushed forward. On the monitors, the council chamber erupted in confusion and outrage. Shylox hissed, but the spell was broken. Lyra kept her body between Eli and their foe, her arm going around Eli's waist to steady him as he sagged, breath ragged. Cameras zoomed in, broadcasting every detail. The way Eli leaned into her support, the way Lyra's golden eyes dared anyone to challenge her claim. The next hours blurred, a storm of hearings, security scans, and scandal. Lyra and Eli were questioned, evidence reviewed, Voss placed under investigation. Medical teams hovered, scanning Eli for residual toxins. Lyra refused to leave his side. At last, the council announced the finals would proceed under new oversight, the old power structures shaken. For the first time, the trials would be truly open. Lyra's quarters were quiet when the storm finally abated. She moved with feline grace, but exhaustion weighed on her limbs. She sprawled on the low couch, studying the data on the final challenge, a brutal gauntlet designed to pit her and Eli against each other for the council seat. The door slid open. Eli entered, bruised but upright, his eyes clearer. He crossed to her side, dropping heavily onto the cushion beside her. She glanced up, arching a brow. "You should be resting," he offered a wry smile. "And miss the strategy session?" They scanned the challenge together: maps, council protocols, the history of the trials. The more they read, the clearer it became. The game was rigged to divide them, to ensure only one could rise. "We could refuse," Lyra said softly. "Break the cycle." Eli leaned in, elbows on his knees. "Or we could outthink them, forge a new path, together." She paced, tail swishing. "If we both lose, we lose everything. If we fight, we become what they want us to be." Eli watched her, thoughtful. When she passed close, he reached out, fingers catching hers. The touch stopped her short, sending an unmistakable spark through her body. "There's always another way," he said quietly, drawing her closer. She swallowed, her guard crumbling beneath the intensity of his gaze. He cupped her jaw, thumb tracing the line of her cheek. The moment stretched, the air between them charged and uncertain. Lyra's voice was barely a whisper. "Eli." He leaned in, and their lips met, hesitant at first, then deepening, a collision of longing and relief. His arms wrapped around her, holding her steady. She melted into his embrace, the barriers between them shattering. When they finally parted, Lyra's golden eyes glowed with emotion, her composure shaken for the first time. The future was uncertain, but in that moment, their alliance, whatever it might become, was undeniable. The final arena sprawled before them, a gauntlet crafted to daunt even the bravest. Lava cascaded in slow, molten rivers, throwing up shimmering heat. Acid pools hissed along jagged outcrops, their surfaces iridescent with lethal promise. Fields of flickering light marked shifting gravity, distorting the air with every unpredictable surge. At the very center, the championship's heart awaited, a gleaming spire, metallic and bright, rising above the chaos with the council sigil glinting at its pinnacle. Lyra and Eli stood alone on the starting platform, the roar of the crowd muffled behind force fields and layered glass. Every camera lens hungrily tracked their faces, searching for signs of rivalry or the secret now crackling between them. Lyra's tail twitched in subtle agitation, her golden eyes cool and unreadable. Eli's stance was relaxed, a faint smile tugging at his lips, but his gaze burned with purpose. They exchanged a look, a flicker of something unspoken, a spark too new and dangerous to reveal. A synthesized voice boomed from above. "Champions, prepare for the final trial. First to claim the council sigil will be named Nexus Spire's new counselor. Begin on my mark." Lyra glanced sideways, voice pitched low for his ears alone. "Ready?" Eli nodded, jaw set. "With you." The signal blared, a pulse of blue light, and they launched forward, each propelled by months of training and a lifetime of survival. Lyra moved with predatory grace, her muscles absorbing the heat, her reflexes honed by Felinar evolution. Eli matched her pace, every step calculated, adapting on the fly as the ground shifted beneath him. Their paths twisted through a corridor of traps, a field of razor-edged platforms, a sudden burst of acid mist. Lyra led through the chemical hazard, filtering the air with deep, steady breaths and motioning Eli to stay close in her wake. He, in turn, navigated a narrow stretch of melting rock, tossing her a compact thermal emitter as the platform lurched, saving her from a gout of flame. They moved in tandem, wordless yet completely attuned, her agility and resistance balancing his ingenuity and quick thinking. Gravity shifted, a sudden lurch that spun the floor sideways. Lyra somersaulted, claws finding purchase on a wall now pretending to be the ground. Eli landed beside her, grinning as he recalibrated his balance. "Did you ever think we'd get here?" he panted, voice wry. "Not like this," Lyra replied, unable to hide her smile. "Don't slow down, human." Side by side, they pressed forward, vaulting obstacles, never losing sight of the spire's silver beacon. The audience, galactic dignitaries, delegates, and the billions watching through countless screens, waited for the betrayal, the inevitable duel. But none came. Instead, the two Deathworlders worked as one, a harmony of instinct and will. They reached the base of the spire together, breaths ragged, skin glistening with sweat and acid-etched grime. The final ascent beckoned, a sheer, mirrored column rimmed with energy barriers and auto-turrets. Lyra peered upward. "How's your climbing?" Eli's hand brushed hers, a fleeting touch. "Better with a partner." They scaled the spire in tandem, each covering the other. Where Lyra's Felinar lungs filtered the rarefied toxic air, she pressed her mask to Eli's mouth, sharing her breath. Where Eli's quick hands overrode a malfunctioning heat shield, he passed her a bandolier of anti-static gel. Their movements blended. Lyra's strength, Eli's cunning, trust forging every decision. 3/4 of the way up, defense turrets hissed awake, their barrels swiveling. At Eli's signal, they split, darting to opposite sides of the column. Bolts of plasma chewed through the air, missing Lyra by inches as she leapt, twisting, claws scraping for purchase. Eli drew fire, feinting left, then right, ducking beneath a barrage. They regrouped at the final hatch, breathless and grinning, adrenaline sparking between them. Inside, the sigil chamber glowed with cold light. The artifact hovered in a force field, runes spinning, sensors flared, tracking biometrics. Eli got there first, hands outstretched. The room hummed with expectation. He paused, turning to Lyra, his face open, vulnerable in a way that broke through every barrier she'd ever known. He offered her the sigil, voice soft but resonant. "Your people need a voice more than mine. Take it." Lyra's heart clenched. She looked at the artifact, at Eli, and saw the futility of a solo victory, the pattern repeating, cycle unbroken. Her mind raced, analyzing the system. There, embedded in the protocols, was a back door, a way to split authority, if only someone dared. She smiled, fierce and wild. "Or we both do." She slipped her claw into the interface, hacking the permissions as only a Felinar could. Code flickered, the artifact's field stuttering. The arena AI spoke, voice ringing over every speaker. "Override accepted." Joint counselors recognized Lyra Varen of Nixara and Eli Mercer of Earth. A stunned silence swept the arena, then a tidal wave of reaction, cheers, outrage, astonished applause. The council delegates stood, some in awe, some in shock. Hand in hand, Lyra and Eli stepped into the center of the chamber, the sigil suspended between them. Cameras closed in, broadcasting their alliance across the system. Lyra's golden eyes shone, pride and hope mingling in her gaze. She faced the world, voice strong and clear. "A new path for a new era. Let this be the beginning, not of conquest, but of unity." Eli squeezed her hand, his own eyes bright. In that moment, under the glare of the arena lights, the championship ended not with a single victor, but with an alliance, a promise to the galaxy that the future would be forged together. The galaxy reeled. News feeds pulsed with the headline, "Deathworld pair named joint champions." A scandal had become a revolution. Across the Nexus spire and out through every relay, holoscreens flickered with images of Lyra Varen and Eli Mercer. Hands clasped atop the council sigil, golden and blue eyes alight with something the galaxy had not seen in generations: hope. In the High Council's crystal amphitheater, delegates argued, protested, then, slowly, inevitably, ratified the new order. The council's vote echoed, dual representatives for the first time in its storied history. Not a compromise, but a recognition of strength in partnership, of unity forged in adversity. The message spread from the gleaming towers of Nixara to the storm-swept arcologies of Earth, from the icy moons of the Hydron clusters to the floating cities of Orinia. The galaxy buzzed with questions, speculation, and, most of all, possibility. But change was never simple. Lyra and Eli found themselves at the center of a tempest. Admirers lauded their courage, while others whispered of backroom deals and traitorous hearts. Nixara's leadership splintered. Some elders condemned Lyra's alliance as betrayal, their voices sharp and old with fear. Others, younger and bolder, hailed her as the future, a living bridge to the stars. On Earth, the authorities watched with wary interest. Old alliances had failed them before, but the promise of renewal, of a place at the heart of galactic power, was impossible to ignore. They attended functions and gave interviews, answering the same questions with practiced diplomacy. "Do you trust each other?" one reporter asked, her translator lagging behind Lyra's Feline dialect. "We do," Eli replied, meeting Lyra's gaze. "Our worlds taught us to survive, but we chose to build something more." In public, they wore the mask of unity, joint counselors, champions, symbols. In private, the armor slipped. In the hush after yet another council debate, Lyra and Eli found solace in the sanctuary of a quiet lounge, far above the glowing city rings of Nexus Spire. The room was dim, the walls curved with transparent crystal. Outside, the stars scattered in ribbons, cold and beautiful. Lyra pressed against Eli's side, her head tucked beneath his chin, her tail curling around his leg in a gesture of trust she would have once considered weakness. "I never thought I'd find an equal," she confessed, voice low, shaped by both wonder and vulnerability. "Let alone someone who'd risk everything for me." Eli slid his hand along her back, his lips brushing her ear. "We're more than equals, Lyra. We're partners." His words were a promise, the kind that could only be forged in fire. Their fingers entwined, his skin rough and warm against her velvet fur. The contrast, once a reminder of all that divided them, had become a source of wonder. She traced the lines of his palm, marveling at the strength there, the history written in every scar. A soft chime sounded, pulling them back to reality. Lyra uncoiled, smoothing her tunic. Eli squeezed her hand once, a silent encouragement. The message was brief and official. Summons to the first joint council session. Destiny, it seemed, would not wait. They dressed together, donning ceremonial attire that blended Feline midnight silk with the clean utilitarian lines of Earth's formal wear. Lyra's cloak shimmered with Nixara's silver glyphs. Eli wore the council's blue sash, Earth's crest embroidered at his shoulder. They caught their reflections, neither fully one world nor the other, united in purpose. They walked to the council chamber side by side, the corridors unusually silent. Every eye tracked them as they entered, delegates of all species, representatives of a dozen worlds. The room was a cathedral of expectation, hope, and suspicion mingling in the charged air. Lyra spoke first, her voice strong but not unyielding. "We're not here to rule." She swept the chamber with a steady gaze, her words rippling outward. "We are here to show that even the harshest worlds can create more than survivors. They can create hope." Eli stepped forward, his tone gentle, grounding. "If two Deathworlders can find common ground, so can this council. We don't have to repeat the old cycles. We can choose differently." Their speech sparked a change. Delegates who had never spoken outside of formal address began to murmur, then debate, then propose new alliances. The Arinians extended a hand to the Hydrons. The Clithians offered a truce to the Vespians. The council's old wounds began to knit, not by force, but by example. In the weeks that followed, the tournament's rules were rewritten, opening the trials to broader representation. Corruption, once endemic, was rooted out, exposed by the reforms Lyra and Eli had forced into being. The galactic press gave them 1,000 names, the Deathworld pair, the Starbound union, the Shattered cycle. Each moniker captured only a fragment of what they had built together. Yet, for all the spectacle, the heart of their story was found in quiet moments. Between hearings, Lyra and Eli would spar in the empty training halls, her claws flashing, his footwork sure. Their duels were playful, intimate. In each contest, trust was tested and reaffirmed. They traded stories of Nixara's wild silver rivers and Earth's ruined cities, of childhood terrors and dreams for the future. When duty allowed, they explored new worlds together. On Arinia's floating gardens, Lyra marveled at the scents and colors, Eli at the sense of peace. On the Hydran moons, Eli's laughter echoed in the gravity wells as Lyra leapt higher than she'd ever dared. In every new place, their differences became strengths, and their bond, once shadowed by suspicion, grew into something unbreakable. Some nights, they lay side by side in the darkness, the ceiling above them a tapestry of stars. Lyra would rest her head on Eli's chest, listening to the steady rhythm of his heart. She would whisper her fears, and he would answer with stories of hope, his fingers tracing her fur in soothing patterns. Galactic politics continued to shift. Old power blocks tried to reassert themselves, but the legend of the Deathworld pair spread faster than any edict. Young envoys arrived, eager to learn from them. Even former enemies sought their counsel. Lyra and Eli became symbols, not of conquest or dominance, but of unity. They proved, again and again, that those shaped by the harshest worlds could choose together to build something better. And so, as the Nexus spire circled its blue-white sun and the galaxy spun on, Lyra and Eli stood at the center, not rulers, but partners. Survivors, yes, but far more than that. Creators of hope, and of a future shaped not by fear, but by the unbreakable bond they had forged. Our story ends here. Make sure you subscribe, press the like button, and tell us in the comments what stood out to you the most in this video. Your feedback means a lot to our team. You'll discover many more captivating stories on our channel. See you in the next one.